Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live event tonight. I'm your host, Renee, your Cerebral Palsy Alliance host, Renee, and I've got with me manager and therapist Michael Ho and team leader and exercise physiologist Mark Liberatore. Welcome, guys.
Hello. Hello, guys.
Your job title is quite the mouthful. Yeah. For some in the NDIS, your first year plan is coming to an end and you'll be due for your NDIS plan review. So tonight we want to make sure that you're armed with the information you need to go through that next stage of the process. But before we get started, we've got a couple of housekeeping to take care of. One is ask questions. Keep asking questions. That's what we're here for tonight. Don't worry if we don't answer it though, because I'll go through them, and tomorrow whatever we've missed or needs more information, I'll make sure that we provide that. And tonight we can't answer any specific individual cases, but if you do have some concerns or want to talk about your personal case, send us a Facebook message and we'll put you in touch with the right person to help you. All right, guys, you ready? Let's get started. Michael, what is your experience in the NDIS and what have you been doing to help people transition and undergo NDIS plan reviews?
Yep, so at the Allambie team in the Northern Sydney area, we've been going through this journey through July 1 last year, along with our families. So, and working at CPA, we've had the benefit of learning from our other sites as well, who've been in their second and third year cycle with the NDIS. So we've been able to draw on the experiences of the other teams, and that's the aim of tonight, is to be able to share that information with everybody.
Yeah, great. So what is a plan review?
So there are two types of plan reviews. Most of you will be coming into a scheduled plan review, which is what we're really trying to be preparing our clients for. A lot of our clients are also familiar with unscheduled plan reviews, which are basically reviews that you've asked for because you've had plans that didn't reflect your needs during the first year. It could be your second year as well in some areas. But generally, it's a review of your plan. Specifically with the scheduled ones, it's about the next 12 months.
Okay, following the end of your plan.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does the plan review differ from preparing for your first year plan?
There isn't really much of a difference.
Okay.
But we just want to make sure everyone's more organised this year. We sort of know what to expect.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that you're able to get the best out of your next plan.
Well, let's hope it's less stressful.
Let's hope so.
And that a lot of people have learned from that first round so that they can kind of bring their own learnings into it as well. So, Michael, tell us about the checklist that you guys have put together, which we'll actually have on our blog and we'll share on Facebook tomorrow. But you've developed one for anyone about to hit that plan review. There's some like key steps.
Yep. So this is what tonight's about. We'll be taking you through the checklist as well. So with that checklist, the idea is to help you make sure that you've got all the documents you need and prepared, and also to help you use the right language when you go to the NDIS planners to basically, again, ensure that you've got a really good plan for your next year. So there are 5 easy things on that checklist which we'll go through tonight.
Awesome. Let's get into them. Well, what is a service review document?
Yep. Sure. I thought Yep.
Oh, Mark.
I was going to cover that one.
Yeah. I'll open up the floor to Mark.
We've got this really well.
With a service review document, it's going to be a really important document to take to that planning meeting, so for your second year plan. And basically with that document, the supports that you receive from the organisation, there might be different supports around different goals on your NDIS plan. So as an example, an allied health professional, like a physiotherapist, might be supporting you around a mobility goal. So that professional, who would be potentially a physiotherapist, would then provide you with a review of the different supports that they've provided. They would then also update around any progress that was made. So an example might be that you were working around increasing your mobility to maintain independence. So progress might have been made around a specific goal or target that you might have had in your therapy. And there might also be comments around if there was any sort of limitations or barriers to success. So you might have been unwell during the 12 months or all of the sessions weren't achieved, so the outcomes weren't fully met. Based on all of that information, and after that service review has been done with that, staff member, the next step would be planning ahead for the Year 2 plan. And if there was a goal specific to that goal or a revised goal that's important for your second year of your plan, then that would be discussed with you. And then moving forward, that would be part of a recommendation in that service review. So it's a really important step in the whole process. And if you were accessing at our organisation lots of different types of therapies, then each of those therapists would then give you a service review document to take away.
Or they might collaborate and put everything on the one page to help you. But I think it's also an important thing to remember to ask if you're accessing other service providers too. So make sure you do that.
So that was one of the questions that kind of came up for me. I don't know if anyone else is thinking about this, but should a person ask for their service review document or do something to prompt it? Yeah,
most definitely. Yeah, okay. I think it's a really good way in the, process of you finalising your service with therapists or different service providers to make sure that you have that sit down and you discuss what has occurred and what support's been provided, and then what recommendations moving forward might be. So then you have adequate support moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's if you're feeling nervous about your second year plan. It sounds like that service review will kind of help you go, what did work in that last 12 months? What's happening and what do we need to do for the next one? Yeah, so that's basically it. So that sounds good. Why is it important to show the NDIS progress the participant is making towards their goals through their NDIS plan, Mark?
It's important that progress is tracked, and the simple answer is because funding is provided around a particular goal in your NDIS plan or goals, and it's important that progress is tracked over the 12 months and that the funding was spent appropriately and according to those goals that are specified. So, that's the most simple way to answer that question, I think.
Okay, so goals are really important.
Most definitely.
Yeah. What are some big changes that people should take into account when they're preparing for their second year plan, in addition to the goals, I guess? Yeah.
I think in terms of changes, thinking about what some of your goals might be moving into the next 12 months. So there might be some different needs around assistive technology or equipment that might not have been relevant in your first plan or the first 12 months, but is now up for review. As an example, you might have a review of a manual wheelchair that needs to be completed. So I think goals and needs will change with time.
So there are also a few major transition points as well. So we know, if you're going from early intervention into primary school, that's a big change, and that could happen anywhere depending on your plan start date, could happen anywhere during that time. So you need to factor that in. Again, transitioning into high school, transitioning into employment. So a lot of those major transition points. And then also factoring if there are sort of any major medical things that you might be doing or undergoing, potentially an operation. Really need to be considering that. And especially with your, if you are going for an operation, consulting with your medical team and making sure that there's a rehab plan so that you can take that to the NDIS during your planning session.
And make them aware of what is actually going to happen for you.
Yeah.
So, the transition points as well, I guess the other thing is you also have access to different funding during those transition points. Like the youth program has different funding. So if you're moving from high school to whatever you're going to do next, and you can access that school leavers package. So that's something important to think about, so you can ask about the different fundings that will be available around that.
Yeah, it's probably a good segue into, talking about support category funds.
Okay, yeah.
So broadly speaking, there are three major areas for support categories, being core, capital, and capacity building. So in your core, that's the stuff that you would need in terms of accommodation, your carers to help you become more independent, any sort of continence products that you might need for the next 12 months, they all need to be factored into your core. In your capital, it's really important, as Mark has already mentioned, that You think about potential wheelchair needs, any major pieces of equipment, potential home mods. They're all things that come under capital and things that need to be considered. And then there's a whole range of things in capacity building, but things that our clients at the moment are currently accessing include things like support coordination, therapy, health and wellbeing, so going to the gym, all of those kind of things all come under capacity building. And it's really worthwhile to familiarise yourselves with the support categories, because that will help you inform you of what sort of resources you need to support you in actually achieving your goal that you set for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to add to that, in terms of that resource, so on the NDIS website, there is reference to the support category funds. So there is a section named participants, so you can search through there. And the NDIS price guide is another valuable resource. It is quite lengthy, but it does have some good information, and I definitely would recommend to refer to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they use a lot of the NDIS terminology. So I guess if you're confused about any of it, just give the NDIS a call, or I mean, who else can they ask? Is there anyone?
They can potentially contact one of our client relationship managers in the Life Points team. They might have various names and be called different things in each of the different teams, but your therapist will actually know who they are, and potentially also your carers might know who they are and might be able to redirect you to the right person.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I guess we kind of touched on it, but is there anything more that you kind of wanted to let people know about how they should use the support category funding to think about all aspects of their lives and when they're setting goals? So, because we kind of touched on, understanding it so that when you're thinking about your goals or what you want to achieve, you have an understanding of the resources available. But is there anything else that we need to think about?
That's a good question. Have you got any thoughts on that one?
I think we've covered most of the important sort of points around factoring in what your needs and goals might be. And I think where all of this ties together is that the service review process that you'll go through with your therapists here at CPA, and also hopefully at other organisations as well, will tie in all of the goals and needs that you've had for this last 12 months, and then what some of the recommendations are through those conversations with you, what there might be moving forward in terms of needs and goals. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So, Michael, you kind of touched on this briefly before, but can you tell us more about support coordination and plan management? You probably might need to separate the two.
Yep.
As this is, something important that people need to consider as they go into their second year plan.
Yeah, so I'll try and keep it brief. There's information, again, as Mark pointed out, on the participant end of the NDIS website, and that's always a good place to go for more information. In terms of support coordination, a lot of you might have received this in your first plan, and it's really important to sort of consider whether you'll need ongoing support in the next year. The purpose of support coordination is to build your ability to find services that you need, and I guess in the NDIS words, capacity build you to do that. But often you may need more support or ongoing support in your second year. So really important to consider whether you still need that, and also to what level you might need that support. In terms of plan management, that's a very big and broad topic. Yeah. Again, there are three main types of plan management. So agency managed, plan managed, and self-managed. Yeah. Yeah. So what we've not sort of, I guess the trend for a lot of our families here in the northern Sydney area is to choose agency managed. So for most of our families, they are accessing registered services, or registered providers with the NDIS. For those who want a little bit more flexibility, they have gone down the self-managed route. But it is a conversation that you should have with the person doing your plan review. And it is, I guess, their responsibility to sort of explain those options to you.
Yeah. And I think, can you still do a mix of them, like some self, some agency or plan manage, so that if there's little bits you want to manage yourself, you can, but if there's bigger things, it might be better just to leave it.
Yep.
Just whatever works for you, I guess. But definitely have that conversation with your NDIS
and that
planner.
Is why it's really important to have that conversation with the person doing your plan review, because you can then explain to them the parts that you want to self-manage or plan manage, and the various options.
Okay. Yeah. So when you're having that conversation with the planner, do we have any kind of advice that we'd kind of give to people to help them to feel confident to speak up for themselves and to really put forward what their goals are and to be confident in that? Mark?
I think an important part of the process has been a good advocate for yourself and for or the person you might be supporting. And I think being informed is really important to be able to do that. So I know that we will be providing some information about how to be a good advocate and some information around what you should be thinking about and how best to communicate some of the needs and goals that you have. And I think just being in the know is a really important part of this process. And hopefully after tonight and some of the resource we share, as well as referring to the NDIS website, that will give you a bit more insight. And I know after the first year, all of us have a lot more experience in regards to how best to communicate, with the NDIA and moving forward, I think that will only improve. So,
yeah, and using, I guess, their language to get the most out of your plan for the next 12 months.
Yeah, and the terminology that kind of makes it up and educating yourself on that. And, our therapists are starting to use that language as well, so they're happy to kind of have those conversations with you. So we're talking about goals. Is there, as your plan's coming to an end, is there a right time to start reevaluating your goals? Do you do it like 3 months before your plan ends?
From experience, we know that an NDIS or NDIA representative will be getting in contact towards the end of your plan, and for some clients that's been a month before, or some have been a little bit earlier or later. So I think you should start, within the last 3 months of your plan, start to think about some of the needs that you've had that might not have been met as of yet, and whether or not you can access a service provider, like CPA or another to fulfill that need. And if most of your needs have been met and you are quite satisfied with the 12 months, like we've talked about, reviewing what has occurred and what needs are projected for the next 12 months, and then just moving forward with being able to communicate those. But I think a couple of months before, I'd say your plan's due to end would be a good time.
Yeah, and even depending on how you've allocated the funds in the first year. The recommendation is if you're coming towards an end of, say, example, if you're coming to an end of a therapy block, ensuring that you're having that conversation with the therapist, because you may not choose to go, say, for example, you've decided to have a block of speech pathology and you're working on a language goal. The next block might be focused around activities of daily living, so working with an OT. So you may not get that chance to have the review with the speech pathologist later on. So it's really important to have that conversation with the speech pathologist at saying, or come to the end of the block of my therapy. Really like to know the progress and make sure that's documented so that you have that going into your plan review.
Okay. Yeah. And are there any record keeping that people should be doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think anytime there's a service agreement that, it has been handed over between yourself and a service provider, most definitely keep that on file, as well as any sort of progress reports that are provided to you. And as we've mentioned, our service review documents is an example of that. But yeah, you should definitely be keeping a record of what has occurred, and moving forward, that's going to be handy in that review or that plan review that's coming up.
Okay, good. Yeah, good records in life's a good rule of thumb, I think. So tonight we kind of talked through what to do when you're coming towards the end of your first year plan. To kind of, we've talked through the checklist, which includes your service review documents, approaching your therapist and your service providers and making sure that they're going to be completing those for you, because you'll need them to go into your second year plan. Assess where you're at now. What are your goals? What are your goals going to be in the next 12 months? What are your... I
might interrupt as well. So you might actually have some funds left where you're thinking about a goal that you hadn't, planned for this, during the last 12 months, and you're wanting it to happen. If you do have the funds left, it might be a good time to go, well, maybe I can see a physio to have an assessment and the physio could make a recommendation that you can take to the NDIS and present that to the NDIS as part of your plan review, being extra prepared. And so you don't then later on need to ask for, an early review or an unscheduled review, so that you're there prepared. So that would work if you have some funds that are unspent and you know the direction you want to go in the next 12 months.
Okay, great. And then as part of that, also thinking through what are the big life things that might happen. Is your child transitioning to school or into high school? Or, are you at a point where you want to start employment or things like that? Do you need to have a major operation in the next 12 months or 2 years? And then we just kind of talk through the support categories. The three are...
core, capital, and capacity building. They're the three main ones, but there are 15 smaller support categories that are worth looking into.
Yeah.
But also really important that you consider your equipment needs. So again, if you need a new walker, new wheelchair, orthotics, those are very important things to consider in the next 12 months and ensure that you're super prepared and that the planner knows to expect that that's something that you want in your next 12-month budget.
Yeah, and familiarise yourself with the terminology. Yeah. And really, we'll have a resource on our blog about being an advocate for yourself. So what kind of things to support you in being able to have that conversation and feel like you can kind of bring up what your goals are and things like that. So guys, what other advice would you give to people about to hit their second year plan?
I think it's also worth sort of having a look at what other service providers are out there. We're into the second year, and especially in Northern Sydney, there are quite a few different service offerings that are available to our clients, and looking at how they fit into their life goals or their NDIS plan goals. Because there's quite a lot of exciting and innovative programs, some of which we're developing here at CPA as well. I know that in the health and wellbeing space, there's been a lot of stuff happening. There's been a lot of
space. There's so much happening there. The early childhood intervention with Habitiel, offering that intensive program. We're the only place really in Australia that does.
Yep. So really having a good look around and seeing how you can fit that into your goals. Really knowing what's out there will help you sort of plan the next 12 months. So have a look.
All right, you, Mark, anything else? Any other tips or something you want to reiterate for people?
I think Michael hit the nail on the head there. He summarised it really well. I think everything that Renee summarised as well is really important, and the resources available to you will really help, I think. And if there's any other pressing questions, as Michael mentioned, you can always get in contact with a customer relationship manager here at CPA to assist you. If we've been supporting you as a client or a family member or you're advocating for someone we've been supporting for many years, I guess we can provide some recommendation around, what sort of, programs or supports we can provide, but also, as Renee and Michael mentioned, just, being a good advocate means that you are well informed. And I think that's what tonight's been all about. And if you need any more information, we're happy to help.
Yep. So you can send us a message on Facebook. If you've got a specific question, send that through as well. But we'll also share tomorrow some of those blog posts with the checklist and then the information about the advocacy. So I think that's enough for everyone. That's a lot of information to kind of take in. Thanks for being part of our Facebook Live, and I hope this helps you make a smooth transition into that second year.
All right.
Thanks.
Night, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.